Hello everyone, it is Friday, June 23rd, 2023. I am Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and this is your status chat. I have something a little bit different today. I think I can make a point at the end, but I have something I need to show you right after this. If you like this content, please go to CallDelToSell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. Well, here we are in the middle segment, and I think this is going to be worth the watch. It'll be a little bit different than what you might be expecting, but I think there's a point at the end of it, something good to keep in mind, and we'll get to that right now. Because some of you might be watching this video on a small screen, a phone, something like that. You may not be able to read the panels that we have before you. Never fear, I will probably stumble through this, but can get this to you. In the first panel, we have Calvin approaching Hobbsy, sitting under a tree, lounging about, enjoying himself, and Calvin says, "What would you do if I creamed you with this water balloon I have right now?" A furrowed brow, Hobbs, in the next panel says, "Take the worst thing you can imagine and imagine something 100 times worse than that." In the following panel, we see them both together, Calvin holding his water balloon, Mr. Hobbs looking at him with great anger, I guess, pre-anger you might call it. "You'd do that," Calvin says. "No, I'd do something even worse." And in the last panel, we see Calvin running away with a big grin on his face, Hobbs in hot pursuit, and he says, "He piqued my curiosity." Now, why do I bring that up? Because there are a couple of different words for pique. Now, some may look at that and say the spelling that the respected cartoonist put in here is the correct and only spelling of the word. That is it. And if you look up the etymology of it, you can see, and the definition, you can see what it is, and you can see that that refers to anger or curiosity, an emotion, that is heightened an emotion. But some of us might use peak as in Pikes Peak, as a mountain peak, right? Or peak of the crisis, all right? We would probably spell that P-E-A-K, correct? I ask you, would we be wrong to do that? Because a peak is the high spot, right? So if we were looking at a demand graph, we could say, well, the peak is at X and Y, this point. Or we could also say, well, what we really meant by it was that we peeked in, that we peered in, that we looked in, as if you made my curiosity peek in and take notice of you. So we have three possibilities. They all sound the same, but they have slightly different meanings, and they can actually, in the context, mean exactly the same thing, really. All right, we have a turning point of whatever. Well, we all have that one friend who just goes all to pieces if we use a word that they don't think is appropriate. Like, irregardless of how they feel about it, some people just absolutely fall to pieces. So they might say that's totally wrong. Well, if our goal is to communicate effectively, that's what we need to figure on, and not get hung up so much on the language. But when does language matter? Well, if you're in real estate and you have a contract that says you have 5 days or 10 days to do inspection, guess what you have? 5 or 10 days to do inspection, not 1 day more. Now, you can always ask them to give you an extension, but there's no obligation to do so. If you were told 10 days, you got 10 days. That word is specific. Actually, you might call it a number, but numbers are words as well when we write them out, right? So, in that case, there is one interpretation of it, and it's really not open for discussion. It's 10 days. Unlike peaked, which has some difference meaning to it depending on how we use it, we can actually have different words to say exactly the same thing. That's why we work with common language. Now, I, as a real estate professional, am not an attorney. I don't write attorney clauses, and I can't do that kind of thing. I can present the standard contracts, and we can make our notes and things, and we can set our dates. Maybe we want to ask for 14 days for inspection, or we want to waive inspection, or finance contingency on it. That's what we're here for. We're here to help that work out. But sometimes words really do matter for what they say, and sometimes not so much. So it's always good to have two heads are better than one, or in some cases, three heads are better than two. So you know what you need to do. You need to call Del to sell, call Del to buy. Now let's get to those numbers. Hello, I'm Del Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, Call Del to Sell. That's one L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout, and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Well, before we get started, let's look at the Mortgage News Daily survey rate of 30-year fixed mortgages. And according to this, yesterday's close of business, they ended at 6.95% for a 30-year fixed mortgage. All right, that's the daily rate. That's their survey. Doesn't necessarily refer to how much your mortgage is going to cost you. It may cost you more because of terms and conditions and all that sort of jazz. Now, let's look at the numbers. Last week, 6/16/23, we had 16,994 opportunities in Real Scout system. That was up over the previous period. We have 4296 in the under contract still showing. That was down just a tad, and we have the ratio falling to 25%. This week, 6/23/23, we have 17,238 opportunities. That's an increase, and we have 4396, which is also an increase of 100, and the ratio jumped up to 26%, just like it was the week of 6/9. So there we have it. Hope this has been a good show for you. Have a safe weekend. We'll see you next week. Well, here we are in an unusual middle segment, but I think it's worth the watch, so we'll get to it.